Play it. It's Tuesday night. It's 8:25. It's time for the Motoring Podcast.
And maybe both of us will be able to hear each other this time. Ish.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, we've got so used to it. Who knows?
Yeah, well, I think
and
there is a slight delay, everybody, between our connections. We have no idea why this shouldn't be the case, but that's just what's happening, so apologies for that.
Yes. We might have to find yet another streaming service.
Yes, we're sorry about that as well.
People want... Sorry wasn't the first word that crossed my mind when I discovered earlier on. I might have said goodness.
No. Maybe even golly gosh.
Golly gosh.
Yep.
Oh, golly gosh, I said. For golly gosh's sake. Why the golly gosh are they doing that? That's basically how it went. Look. Let's get ready to hit it. Lots of news tonight, so loads to get through. Finally, everyone is coming back to work again, I think.
Yeah.
Mr. Clue, are you ready?
Yes.
In 3, 2, 1, go.
And yes, I have lines. God, they're not very big. Oh dear, never mind. They're big enough.
Are they?
Okay, hang on.
Mine seem awfully quiet.
Yeah, mine's quiet as well. Hang on. Is that helping at all? Well, we'll see how it goes.
You're still... I mean, it's...
Yeah, I know. I'm coming through all right to you.
Check. Sorry. I just see them. Let me just make sure that this is not... No. Record. Blue Snowball. It's all right. Making sure it wasn't... For people at home, I was making sure it wasn't microphone. It wasn't laptop mic that was picking it up. Because then you get every time I knock on the table and not every second time.
Yeah, something like that. Okie doke.
Right, should we get going?
I think so.
Cool. Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly of motoring news. This is episode 2, Tuesday, the 27th of August, 2019. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew, and this week we'll be talking about how time is becoming irrelevant, Nürburgring times doubly so. We'll also be asking if banning cars is the only way to save us and the planet, and we chat about how the old is the new. But first, some follow-up. And it's been a while, actually. It's been quiet on this front, but Carlos Ghosn follow-up. And it is the fact that information has been handed to the press, I think is the politest way to put it, from the prosecution team fighting against Carlos Ghosn, saying or alleging that he funneled money from Nissan into the chap he knew in Oman, who then funneled half of it into a Lebanese-based business, and that eventually ended up in a Silicon Valley company that was something to do with Ghosn. So they're saying that, see, look, he's illegally using Nissan money. Ghosn's defense team have turned around and said, this is yet another falsehood, misrepresentation, and essentially saying that the prosecution lying and passing all this information out to the press to cloud everyone's judgment or view of Ghosn. They said, we, however, will do we will explain our side of things in court where it should be. So, gloves, the prosecution are getting a little bit dirty, I think, here.
It's been quiet for a while, so something was going to happen. We knew that. That things were and that there was going to be some kind of backlash at some point.
Yeah, but that I was reading that, and before I got to the bit where Ghosn's team went, no, and you shouldn't be leaking this info to the press, I was going, how did the Wall Street Journal get hold of this? Call me a little bit cynical.
Probably a wolf.
Yes.
It was probably a wolf.
Right, shall we move on to Monterey? Because we didn't talk about that enough last week.
Yeah, let's. No, you're right. We didn't. So no, this was just a recap. So we'd given opinions and thoughts on what we'd seen. And chaps over at Collecting Cars wrote up a piece about it. Be aware that they are a vehicle auction website that works slightly differently from houses at Monterey. So you know there might well be a slant to it, but do have a little bit of a read, because they just some of the big numbers and some of the smaller numbers and where things were compared to where the rest of the market is thought to be right at the moment. Where it wasn't, by the way, was King's weekend. I was at the classic car auction there, which was quite good fun. It wasn't for the podcast. It was because I wanted to buy something, but didn't.
I was going to say, apart from you didn't get the thing you wanted, I thought you did very well not to actually bid on anything else.
Hard. In the end, I had to go and distract myself by speaking to Luke from Luton Classics instead.
Cool.
That was my way around it after 170 something. But yeah, no, it was quite good fun.
Cool.
So it's a long day. Anyway, we're way off topic. So Andrew, we've Gate. Let's have.
Yeah, and it's the news that following Volkswagen's improved, toughened up stance over employee behavior and coming down harder on those who do not follow company rules, 204 staff members were fired in the first quarter. Another 903 had formal warnings. This is over 650,000 employees, by the way.
So the percentages here are tiny, really.
Very tiny.
It doesn't
but
say what kind. You know, and half of them were work time violations like unexcused absence and all these kind of things that you would expect. Oh, other reasons include property offences, ignoring drug and alcohol discrimination. It's stuff you would expect in a big manufacturing company. It shouldn't happen, of course, but it does. So it's not so bad.
Absolutely. But what it is they are now reporting this to other employees in an effort to try and help them understand that they are paying attention to this and they are being much tougher on it. Because this was one of the recommendations from the US appointed monitor, Larry Thompson, if you can remember that far back, ladies and gentlemen, that the US authorities did appoint one. But this is one of the new rules they had to do, along with having better representation on their board and things like that, wasn't it? There was the lady who was to help out with what was it? It's not change management. That's not the one. But it was to do with the whole changing culture, and then she left because there was a lack of changing culture.
Yes, this is true. I'm sure something's if we're not hearing about it, the chances are that something's probably happening successfully in the background. He says optimistically.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, let's stick with Volkswagen and not Volvo, Volkswagen. I'm struggling to speak tonight. Sorry, everybody. Let's stick with Volkswagen and tell me about how new the new stuff is.
Well, I'd sort of rumors and much going around the web that Volkswagen was going to ramp out a new brand identity sometime during this week, actually, and you know, in the run up to the Frankfurt show, which is a couple of weeks' time. So watch out. There's going to be loads of stuff coming and loads of news and rubbish coming out in the next couple of weeks as everyone tries to hype up Frankfurt even more. And just convinced. I was actually going to joke that what they'll do is they'll take the normal logo, but instead of it being blue and sort of gradiented and all sort of skeuomorphic, right down, and they'll make it black and white instead of blue and white, because that way it'll be cheaper to print and it can be seen as cost cutting. And just making it more, like a Lotus the other week.
Flat.
So guess what they did, everyone? They took their logo and they made it black and white with no gradient on it. So that it's, of course, cheaper to print and things. And real life imitated the gag I was going to make this week. So yeah, the new Volkswagen logo looks like a Volkswagen logo, but in black and white. Volkswagen logo that we all think of and would doodle and draw, and then show it through a photocopier a couple of times on maximum contrast, and that's what you've got. That's Volkswagen logo.
Yes, allegedly.
But black and white. Allegedly. I'm sure it'll, once again, with the Lotus one, we commented that it was people said, well, on a vehicle and there's a glow behind it, it'll make a lot of sense. And that was said about Lotus when they unveiled an EV. What do we think of the chances that the and have a flat illuminated logo on it? Because it's got to be a possibility now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they can use the blue that they've been using for many years now as, I don't know, their electric cars now, because that's what Volkswagen represents, or some tosh like that. Who knows?
So, well, we all know that the blue is the official color of an electric car.
Yes,
because that's like crackling electricity. So, and it's not green, because green would be too obvious.
Yeah,
green's a hybrid.
Yeah, God.
Anyway, Andrew, there's a note here about crackers is Swiss cheese. Can you explain this one?
Pentest Partners, who are a penetration testing and security consultancy firm, have been having a poke around three of the major smart trackers that are available for vehicles. They purchased them with their own monies and prodded around via computers and code and other stuff that is witchcraft as far as I'm concerned, but they do day in, day out. And they found that all three had quite a lot of holes in their security. So you could do things like you could sorry, I'm just digging out the right bit. I've just gone past it. So you could remotely trigger via one of the devices. You could remotely trigger to immobilize the vehicle, stopping it from being driven. Unauthenticated, so you didn't have to prove it was you who was, you were the right person to be able to do this. If your car was stolen, some of them on all three, the theft alerts could be deleted, and so the thief could, if they'd stolen the car and had the access that was apparently easy enough to do, then they could run off, and whilst someone was sat in the passenger seat, go, "Oh no, that's not a theft. That's just we'll delete that warning," and things like that. So these were there were major problems. Right now, just to be fair to the tracking companies, all three have now fixed these issues. One of them did it very quickly. One of them, according to Pentest Partners, sort of almost did it by accident, but it's fixed, so that's fine. And then another one they weren't getting any joy with until via Twitter, their security consultant got in touch, and then within 48 hours, things got fixed quickly. So, as with any of these connected on the Internet of Things, sometimes the companies aren't as well equipped on the security side of things as perhaps you would hope when reacting to less good news about their product. But what the main point that I take out of this article is that Thatcham Research have accredited all of these, and it appears Thatcham Research are actually accrediting how well the tracker does its job, and not is it a secure thing that does its job well. So hopefully, but after being contacted by Pentest Partners...
defense, Andrew, in Thatcham's defense, that's what I would expect them to be testing it on, though.
Yeah, but if you have a remote accessible device, I would hope if you're saying this is a good or bad one, you are checking if you can get into it, or at least understand that people may be able to try and get into it remotely, which doesn't really come across that clearly in how Thatcham have replied to Pentest Partners thing. So what I would say is I hope this has prodded Thatcham, who are, don't forget, they're the ones who are NCAP's representative over here, and they're one of the main companies that are supposed to be dealing with cybersecurity of cars in the consortium, so they should know this shizzle. They should know what the problems are here, and they should be testing an Internet of Things device in this manner if you are going to say, yes, this is a good one or not. And I hope now they've had this done, they change their testing regime. Because otherwise it totally undermines the service.
The thing... Yes. The thing is that with the... I've now... sorry, I had to try and start that 3 times and now completely forgotten what it was. Oh, fuck it.
Sorry, dude.
There is no thing. That's all right. It wasn't you, I don't think.
Well, it's me and the connection.
Technology, not you. Right, yes.
Okay, I'll introduce you into the next one now.
Both.
Right.
Thanks.
Okay, well, before I get too ranty and don a tinfoil hat, Alan, talk to us about how the government, what the government needs to do to get us to net zero by 2050.
What do you mean, don a tinfoil hat? I thought it was actually surgically employed. There was lots and lots of talk earlier this week about a report from ministers and the government and banning of private cars. And this time it wasn't just London; it was worldwide. And of course, that had lots of shouty responses from all over the internet, and people being outrageously outraged as just to quickly talk about what it actually was that was being said. So the report in question did not come from transport. The report in question came from the Committee on Climate Change, which is part of the Science and Technology Committee. So nothing to do with transport at all. And there's committee after committee after committee listed here, which is all a great way of, MPs bolstering their very, very low salaries. But they've warned the UK is not. He talked about the UK not being on track to meet, its climate change targets for 2023 or 2032, any of these, and the Science and Technology Committee were really saying that, well, look, if we're meant to get to a net zero, so that is emissions and carbon dioxide and carbon use by 2050, okay? So that's 40 away. No, it's not. It's 31 years away. They're saying, well, here are 10 things the government could do in order to meet this. And so what they did was it says quite clearly here, the committee identifies implementation of low carbon technology has been delayed, cut back, or undermined. And it runs through those. And it also goes through, there's some recommendations for change. And
well, those 10 key areas, by the way, a lot of those make a lot of sense, what they're saying there. Because they are, for example, one of the ones they talked about was how fuel duty has been frozen, but bus and train fares have been allowed to increase every year. So therefore, people go, well, actually, it's more forgetting the convenience. They go, I won't use the train because that's too expensive. I'll get in the car. And how many times have we seen it on Twitter? How many times have we seen the conversation where it's going to cost me 350 quid to get down to London. It's £50 in petrol for my car and parking up. I'll do that. Yeah. And the tariff for home
zero carbon power generation, solar, wind, whatever. It was
Yeah.
closed. That's been saying that actually, against ever reaching this. And it recommends here
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
like 10, and then it says here are 10 recommendations for change. And they're decent enough. So strategy for decarbonising heat and improvements. Support for onshore wind and solar power. Review of the smart export guarantee about exporting, energy. So it's about sustaining nuclear power without growing the nuclear power industry. Removal of greenhouse gases and how we can actually go about doing that. Clear action on carbon capture. I'm running through all until I get to the, clean growth regulation in the energy market to say, well, look, here is the strategy for getting there, and support for local authorities to help try and place in public spaces, in just in ways that work in their area.
Mm.
But the one that's got everyone, all the vehicle people up, was the plan for reducing vehicle emissions. Now, I've got the select committee summary in front of me. So this is the report summary, not the full report. And it says the government must bring forward the date of its proposed ban on sales of new conventional cars and vans to 2035 at the latest, and ensure that it covers hybrids too. Okay, so it says you're going pure hydrogen, not just mild hybrids and stuff. In the near term,
There's
the
no
government must
internal
reconsider
combustion
the
engines at all.
No, exactly. In the near term, the government must be consumers to purchase both new and used vehicle models with lower emissions. The government, so far so good, I think. The government should also work with public services and the owners of public land, such as schools and hospitals, to accelerate deploy measures to ensure that charge points are interoperable, compatible with a smart energy system, reliable, and provide real-time information on their current functionality. Big thumbs up here for that bit.
Although we still don't know what smart energy system is yet.
No, it is.
Bingo, yes. Buzzword bingo.
Yes. Yes. It's digital transformation. I've lost where I was now. And then it goes on to say, although ultra-low emissions vehicles generate very little emissions during use, their manufacture generates substantial emissions. Long term, now this is long term. This isn't even 2050. This is long term. Widespread personal vehicle ownership therefore does not appear to be compatible with significant decarbonisation. Read that again. In the long term, widespread personal vehicle ownership therefore does not appear to be compatible with significant decarbonisation. So there's a number of things there. One is why we're going to cars away. And it all starts to then fit in a little bit with that London thing we talked about the other week, where what you actually need is to... going to my waffle. Says the government should not aim to achieve emissions reductions simply by replacing existing vehicles with lower emissions versions. So what I take from that is, you've got a car, here's another car. What it actually should be is, okay, can we provide better, faster, cheaper other transport solutions so you don't need a car? And that may include fleets of cars or vehicles. It can include, and taxis, be they driverless. Otherwise, is all in there as well. What it's really hinting at is there should be better infrastructure so that people don't need a car, and there will always be places where you need a car.
Because it's saying widespread.
The countryside. I mean, proper exactly. And I mean, proper countryside. You're in somewhere in the Highlands. You're not going to have. It's just not going to work that you can have a train service or a bus service every 10 minutes or any of these things. It won't be widespread, but you probably need to own a car. So people were going kind of crazy and and saying that this is all awful and then you should all buy these nobody needs a car anywhere, just sell your cars and all that kind of stuff, and that's rubbish too. What's written and what people are getting all actually quite sensible. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, the key though will be,
I enjoyed reading it.
Because there's a couple of things here. If we look, sorry, I'm going to go on to a hot topic that I like to go on to, but if we look at how interconnected things are,
oh no,
this transport, no, because I'm agreeing with you. I know it's rare, but I'm agreeing with you that generally, the concept behind what they are suggesting. What they are suggesting makes sense. I'm not saying necessarily I agree with it all, but that's from a purely selfish point of view. But we need to be shown and encouraged to make trips using other forms of transport if that is practical and that is possible. And if not, it needs to be investigated at a local government, county, regional, governmental level to can it be done in some way with investment? Because don't forget, this country has been massively underinvested in when it comes to infrastructure. They're horrifically underinvested. Yet we're supposed to be acting as though we're Norway when it comes to subsidies for electric vehicles, and we're like the Dutch with their bike lanes and stuff. It can't happen if you don't put money into it. So let's stop dreaming that. Now let's stop talking about that unless we're going to talk about investment. But if people can be encouraged to go on a bike to do some journeys, whether I saw something today about cargo bikes and how some people are going, actually these are quite useful. That wouldn't work on the streets where I live at the moment because there isn't the room for them. It would, well, of course you could do it, but I would not feel particularly safe doing it because there isn't a dedicated area for me to be on that. And we know some people can be silly in a car whilst some people can be silly on a bike. But you know what I mean? It's like we have to encourage the thought behind making the journey at all. Do you need to make the journey? If so, are there alternatives? If not, can alternatives be arranged at some point in the future? If not, well, then that's where you are. You need to make that journey. There are no alternatives. That is where the car makes its case.
Agreed. I felt I got thoroughly punished for driving into town, which I didn't really want, which are my normal approaches. And yes, I ended up paying for the minimum amount of parking I could pay for if I paid for it afterwards was £3. So it cost £50 for 16-minute parking.
It's like there's.
Oh, that was actually London level, I suppose. It's still quite cheap.
There's a couple of trips I have to make into our town, and I literally need to be 5 minutes, but it's £1 because the minimum I can pay for is 3 hours.
I don't really have a problem with that. If you're doing enough in town that you need 3 hours, you probably need the car.
Yeah, and £1 is cheap for 3 hours, but you sort of go, well, yeah, for 5 minutes, hell, because and I know other people just use the double yellow lines near the places they want to visit because I see them. But anyway, that's off topic.
Yeah, I couldn't because I needed to go into the middle of this bit, so even though it took 5 minutes. Anyway, never mind that. It is Guilt Minute, the point in the show where we don't make you feel guilty about owning a car, although I feel we might just have done. But it's where we remind you to think about and consider you. If you feel it's worth a small amount of your hard-earned cash, then please head to motoringpodcast.com and click on the orange Become a Patron button there on the front page. If you're already a patron, then thank you so very much. Of course, not everyone, so please don't forget to like, rate, and leave feedback via the podcast playing platform of your choice. If you've done all that, you rock. But how's about accosting a friend who you think would enjoy this and telling them all? For some reason, you don't actually subscribe to the show. How's about doing so for free using a free podcast player? That will make sure that the next show comes to you without the anxiety and worry that you might miss out. I might have gone a bit OTT there, although we might have turned into Greeny Weekly by next by next week at the
Scooters of the
I'm
future,
not really, I
man.
think we're right. That's right. There was right. So before we go into the next bit, then if you're going to things. I'm reading. I'm going to do a quick plug for Ludicrous by Ed Niedermeyer. His book on the history of Tesla. It's I should. Oh, I've said it out loud.
Any thunder?
Like how they've got there. It's really, really good. But he makes this great comment about these at one point about the Cambrian explosion of different available to people right at the minute in a sort of public way. And one of them he mentions is electric scooters, and I did actually sit there and roll my eyes as I read it. So yeah, but I thought that sharing things and all the different formats of vehicle that you could actually borrow in many places around the world or rent was really, it was, I just liked it a lot. I thought, I wish I'd thought of that. I'm not smart enough.
One day, if you try
Anyway.
hard, Alan.
I know if I try and stuff. Rally Germany.
Right, WRC. And in an effort to make Alan very happy this week, Toyota decided their Yaris would come first, another Yaris would come second, and a third Yaris would come third, even not fourth, but a fourth Yaris. And this is the one that gets me. I will run through who was where, but this is the one that gets me. Takamoto Katsuta was stepping up from their junior program, first time in WRC, and he got in the points by ending up 10th. He was 8 minutes, 20 seconds back behind Ott Tanek, who was first. But still, first time out, crikey, well done.
If I'd been 8 seconds behind Ott Tanek over the course of a round,
you would be dining out on that for a long, long time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Chris Meek was second,
Well done.
so it's brilliant to see Chris Meek has not had another splash of bad luck. So he ended up 20 seconds behind, and Jari-Matti Latvala was 36 seconds behind Ott Tanek in third. Nouvelle was in fourth, sort of recovering a little bit of point-wise. And I think Sordo was fourth, went late to a timing gate, so it meant that Nouvelle went ahead, and Nouvelle actually won I think the last special stage as well. But then Mikkelsen in the third Hyundai i20 was in sixth. Then you got to Ogier in the C3, Lappi in the C3, and then the first Ford Fiesta, which was driven by Greensmith, that was in ninth. So that looked like that was a tough week for what they called. I've forgotten.
I'm sorry, I wasn't even listening.
M Sport. Sorry, M Sport. How could I not remember M Sport?
Fiesta M Sport.
Yeah. I'm very sorry, M Sport. That's very poor of me. I do apologise. So Tanek, how many points is he ahead now? I think he's. Where is he? Hang on. 35 points. He's 35 points ahead of Nouvelle. So that's good news. And Sordo. Nouveau is now 13 points clear of Ogier. So it honestly, not that you can be with the WRC, but it looks like it's Tanek's to lose.
Don't say that because it's Rally Wales coming up
no.
in 2 weeks' time or so.
No, October.
North Wales.
Starting in Liverpool, actually, on the docks. Near the Albert Dock. Which I'm hoping to try and get to, but logistics might be proving difficult. Yeah, another little bit of rallying news, though. You know about the new Corsa E, the £26,500 electric Vauxhall Corsa. Well, Opel are making a rally version, which is going to be apparently 46 grand. or thereabouts, and be a little bit wider, a little bit longer, significantly lighter. So the taking seats out. That's what I'm reading from that. And a different shell to it.
So yes, it'll come with few seats. Yeah.
Yeah. And that will be racing in a own spec, own make German race series. So I think it's a good idea because of it's marketing. It's a marketing ploy. But I think it's a good idea showing people that electric cars are capable of, we still have to get beyond the myth of the milk float image, don't we? Unfortunately, even with Tesla's ludicrous mode and the Porsche, whatever it is going to be coming out soon as well. Yeah, Taycan, Tyco, whatever. The Porsche thing. Yes. The one that was in the Playmobil movie. Yeah, that one.
Oh, gee. Yes, that one. The other... the Peugeot 208, and also then with whatever it is that Citroen decide to use as their next, I would imagine. So this will be a certain amount of testing and trying to get ahead of the game, I would think.
Yeah, I think so.
As well as, getting, just for everyone's sake, finding out what the challenge is.
Yep. Right, let's move on. News from Volkswagen again.
Well, yes. News from Volkswagen. Know by now. Ferdinand Peich, I don't really know how to describe him. Really, he was former.
Everyone keeps saying engineer.
Chairman, CEO of Volkswagen Group. Engineer is a good in the title here from this obituary in Automotive News Europe. He died suddenly and unexpectedly. Weekend. A chap, really. In a number of ways, depending on which obituary you read, it tells you just how much he was, and just what type. He was, of course, the grandson of Ferdinand Porsche, and the Peich and Porsche's Volkswagen Group. He himself worked for Audi for a long time. He was seen as instrumental in the development of Quattro. He and worked his way through the ranks from there to become the CEO of Volkswagen in 1993. He, from then, when it was making quite significant losses, and went on a mission essentially to firmly into the black, and part of his way of doing that was through acquisition, really. Seat, Skoda, Bentley, Bugatti, Lamborghini, Ducati, MAN and Scania were all Scania, somebody will correct me on that, were all added to the portfolio of brands, amongst others, starting when he was CEO. He ended up chairing the supervisory board from 2002. He moved to a supervisory type job, and then I mentioned the Porsche and Peich families. He ended up in 2012 acquiring Porsche inside the Volkswagen Group, which was quite a turnaround, given that his cousin, who's essentially the owner of the Porsche, had tried to buy the Volkswagen Group a few years before. So lots of two fingers and petty spats and stuff like that in that sort of area. He was quite a guy. He seemed to be that, he was not someone who liked out, he he wasn't bothered if people didn't necessarily get on. I think it's a fair way of putting it on was sort of there. And that was
well. He says it. He
partly
says
down
there's
to
the
him. But
final
there are
quote, isn't it? In one of the quotes, sorry, at the end of a section in here, from his autobiography is, "My desire for harmony is limited."
There it is. I couldn't find it. As I was going through, and I hadn't made a note of it in my little note, post-it note of achievements down here. That rather, so that I wasn't searching for it. But yeah, he was quite a chap. There's loads and loads of obituaries out there, and there's well worth a read. I think. Just I don't know that we'll see someone like for a long time. His wife, at least one wife, and something like 12 children, I believe. When he insisted he was a few years ago, then two other members resigned in disgust that this was happening. And there's also all sorts of things around that, even in his death, around what's happening. Nobody knows which of his children is going to be seen as the one to sort of take over. I'm sure we'll see a little bit more about that as it carries on, and we see the sort of fallout from that happening. But
he'd withdrawn from
the
business after resigning from the supervisory board when they defied his will about Wintercorn.
Mm-hmm.
So, whilst he's probably still very passionate about the company, his involvement was less, particularly towards the end. And of course,
apart from controlling a majority stake of it, though.
Yeah. Apart from that,
yes. One to just actually drop. But yeah. Lots worth reading. At least a couple of those obituaries from different angles. So, yep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to see him go.
Right.
Change of pace slightly. Andrew.
Yes. Lincoln Co. 03. That's the way they name their vehicles. Has apparently beaten the Jaguar SV Project 8 around the Nürburgring for the fastest four-door round the bloody Nürburgring. Yawn. Gosh, yawn. But this is only in a concept thing, so it's not a real road-going car. And yawn.
It's also the fastest four-door wheel drive. If we're going to start, making up our own sectors here.
Yes. Well, we're the fastest podcast that records on a Tuesday night talking about cars that's never been to the Nürburgring together.
Okay. Yeah.
If we can make up these things, why not?
Might as well.
I had David Pook on Rear View, and I asked him specifically about this because obviously, as a chassis engineer, ride handling engineer for Jaguar or JLR, he does significant amount of testing and a fair amount of it at Nürburgring. So I asked specifically, what is the point of the Nürburgring? Please tell me it's something more than just people going, oh, look how fast we can go round a track. Ooh. That means nothing to anyone, really, except for they can put it on whatever lap time record list they think they've got. And he said, well, no, actually, the main purpose of being there is to get all the different surfaces, all the different cambers, all the different stresses and strains that the Nürburgring puts your car under whilst you're driving around it pretty rapidly. So that's what it's there for. Marketing wants the fastest number. Engineering and product development want what? Let's just do lap after lap after lap, please. Let's get some data.
Give us the data.
Yeah.
Consistent data. Yeah.
So well done, Lincoln Co.
Well, still with all four wheels off the ground, isn't it? It looks like a yay.
It looks like, as Near Khan pointed out, was it actually from a game, or was it a real photo, or was it from a game?
It does. It looks a lot like that, doesn't it? Yeah, it's quite nice. It's I imagine. Pardon me. I imagine it's from a game. I imagine it's a real photo, but it doesn't half look like a game, does it?
Yeah.
It's always a sunny world. It's always a sunny day in Photoshop land, though. Yeah, fastest. Another fastest car around the Nürburgring, just for
Another
a change
fastest
of
four-door.
topic. Yes. Well, no. It's not even the fastest four-door. It's the fastest four-door V on the Nürburgring. And I actually want to say why this is a useful and realistic, and what's actually important about this. So one thing is the Porsche Taycan version yet or not, but the Taycan is actually slightly slower than the Panamera Hybrid, which actually has the record for being the fastest four-door on the ring.
Okay.
Minutes 38. The difference between Taycan's fast four-door electric car. Why does it matter? Okay, this one matters, and it's part of Porsche trying to show off the continuation of the video the other week with Johnny Smith. Because it's Porsche trying to say that, well, okay, so maybe there are other electric four-door vehicles which might be a fraction of a second quicker to miles an hour. But the big difference is that we can do it consistently. And we can go right the way round the Nürburgring, and we can throttle and brake a race car, and we will not go into a thermal cutout limp mode at any point in this. You won't have any issues like that. And I think there might be a little bit of pointedness there for other performance four-door electric vehicles, which may be more than 3 or 4 minutes into a lap of the Nürburgring without it going into some form of thermal cutout mode. I say 3 or 4 minutes in response to the comments below. So my apologies. I haven't actually done in-depth research into how far other well-known four-door electric vehicles before they fritz out on race circuits. But that's why that one's important, because it's showing off that consistency. I just want to make it clear what the message is Porsche is trying to get and why it's relevant to those of us who are enthusiasts. There. That's
Good work.
done on that one. By the way, I've just got to say the PR, obviously, the Taycan is going to be unveiled in a couple of weeks' time at Frankfurt. Goodness me, you're not half doing a good job, Porsche, filling in empty news with stuff for us to talk about the Taycan without it being total hype. So thank you very much. Because
yes, because otherwise we wouldn't be talking about it.
Well, yeah. Otherwise, we just ignore it and go, "Oh, load of rubbish." But I thought that was interesting because of the relevance behind it for EVs and battery management and shit like that.
Yep, absolutely.
Our listeners like.
Absolutely.
Anyway, some greatest up to the moment news, Andrew.
It is. The lunchtime read, which actually I think may take more than 1 or 2 lunchtimes, and hence there is no list of the week this week for you to peruse. But thanks to Chris Pickering tweeting this earlier, we've got Dennis Jenkinson's account of driving the Mille Miglia with Sir Sterling Moss. And it's utterly amazing. It's fabulous. It's on Motorsport. It's from their archives, and it's free for us to access via their archives. It's just brilliant. I couldn't.
This is one of
As Chris pointed out himself in the tweet, good gosh, to have this accessible for us all is amazing. So thank you very much, Motorsport. But it's phenomenal. I'm stuttering over words here, but strongly go read this.
I've not read a reputation of being one of the great articles of its time. This is pretty much legendary. There, Moss and the Mille Miglia is one of those things of legend. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. I've got a train journey into Londinium tomorrow. I strongly suspect that I'll be sipping my coffee and reading this as we go along. Because this is, I have heard tell of this article and I want to read it for myself.
Yeah.
Fab.
Yeah.
Andrew.
I would love to attend the modern day version of the Mille Miglia at some point. I know it's not, it's a different thing now. Because unfortunately, people died a lot on the original incarnation, but it must have been absolutely phenomenal to see this happening live back in the day with the speeds they were doing and the lack of technology compared to what we have today.
Well, I believe Jenks's pace notes were all on a sort of toilet paper, essentially. You scrolled from one to the other and he had to keep scrolling it until the next one came up. So rather than turning over pages and getting lost and mixed up, he just kept winding it and it kept going. Saying about the danger, the danger and stuff, and the story that every time Sir Sterling jammed on the brakes, he'd stick his left arm out, or I can't remember what, and drive to actually brace Jenks, and that was instead of a seatbelt, because that was going to be so much better. He goes, then we logged all the difficult corners, grading them as saucy ones, dodgy ones, and very dangerous ones, having a hand sign to indicate each type.
Oh, brilliant.
I'm reading this in the morning. That's
not repeated in
cracking.
WRC today,
really
where there is so many cameras.
No. Yes.
Right, take us through to the and finally.
Well, the end finally, we've talked quite a lot about WRC tonight. We've almost mentioned some Citroen in there, but the WRC driver was in the UK, and they decided that that what he should do when he's over here is he should do demo drive for VIPs and stuff. And they thought, well, what can we do it in? Because we don't have a rally car. So what they did was they took a Berlingo and made a couple of small tweaks to the Berlingo. Mostly they added a normal handbrake as opposed to the electronic one that's standard. And other than that, they left it version, which has a bit more, 30 mm more ground clearance. It has underbody skid pans. It has hill descent, which I'm sure was really useful.
Fabulous wheels.
The grip control on sort of normal road tires, and they used that on a rally training stage to people. Motoringresearch.com are the photos of a very nervous looking Richard Orcock.
I wanted to say something very crude about
really
adjusting things.
Sort of walk back again. Yes. What, about playing his helmet or something? Yeah.
Something like that, yes.
I'm not.
No, that would be childish if we ever did that. But we're not childish like that.
Surprise me about it would. No, we're definitely not. You, you don't have our phone numbers. Uh, the But yeah, I was surprised that the Bilingo managed this all day long, because for goodness sakes, you see them in the hands of postman and Scotland, and yeah, they get one heck of a workout. So I just thought that was really cool, using a Bilingo as the show off vehicle rather than anything
Yeah,
else. Oh, great fun to drive.
yeah, that's well done, Citroen, on that one. That's good work.
Nice move. Which brings us to the end of No Parish Notes. Ludicrous, by the way, it's a book by Ed Niedermeyer. I forgot to actually say what it was that I was reading, but I assume you all knew that. Or wherever for your hard and softback copies. Plug. We're not getting anything for it, but
Nope.
we read lots of Ed stuff. Yeah, that was it for Parish Notes, I think.
Yep.
Which means that it's time for me to add next Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook, and on the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Don't forget our Patreon offer available at motoringpodcast.com. On Apple Podcasts, which is all a bit messed up at the minute, Google Podcasts, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. It really does matter. Andrew, what the best
Best way to get in touch with me is via Twitter. If you search for Crack Windscreen, you will find me there. And Alan, if somebody has a wonderful suggestion for a streaming service that is of a reasonable cost that will prevent either me or you, or perhaps both of us, breaking our computers and screaming into the void, where can they do that?
You can do that, because I only heard half of what he just said. Where I'm at AJP Bradley, Bradley. We'll be back next week, but until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
10 seconds after I finished. And safe motoring.
Sorry, everyone. There's been delays all over the place. We really apologise for it. We are avidly looking for another solution to this, because this isn't good enough. It's not good enough for you to tune into, and it's really not helping Alan and I try and do this. So we are looking for a new solution. We will try and keep the disruption down to a minimum, because we don't want you to have to jump through hoops to watch us as part of the benefit of being a patron of ours. So as soon as we have the best solution we can, we will let you know.
Yeah. In the meantime, we won't be paying £16 because we ain't paying anything right now, and it's on the borderline. And that's a lot of patron donations for something which isn't working very well.
Mm-hmm.
On free services, of course. But but when you're trying to make sure you're not wasting people's money on all sorts of fancy stuff, then that's a bit tricky.
Yep.
And thank you, as always, for your support. It really is appreciated. And we will be back next week. We might be a bit later next week. I haven't told Andrew this yet.
Okay.
Because I have to make it from Reading to London and actually get some food and possibly read some stories before we begin. So we might.
So still the same day, but just later on in the evening.
I'm sorry, you're going to have to say that again.
We'll sort this out after.
Yes, I think we will. But I was just warning you, nice patron people, folks. Cheers.
Bye.
It's ending.